Press record, say something, play it back, and watch what happens to your face. That immediate, visceral, almost physical recoil. The way you wince before the sentence is even finished. The desperate urge to close the app, delete the file, pretend it never happened. That is not my voice. That cannot be my voice. I do not sound like that. But here is the thing that nobody tells you. Every single person who has ever heard your voice, your friends, your family, your colleagues, every person who has ever laughed at something you said or leaned in to hear you better, they hear exactly that voice, and they are completely fine with it. So why aren't you? Why does the sound of your own voice feel like fingernails on a chalkboard when played back through a speaker, while the same voice, in real time, feels completely normal? The answer is not that your voice is bad. The answer lives deep inside the neuroscience of self-perception, and it reveals something genuinely unsettling about the relationship between who you think you are and who the world actually experiences. Today, we are performing a full autopsy on audio shame, the psychology of hating your recorded voice, the neuroscience of why you sound completely different to yourself than to everyone else, and what this specific, strange discomfort reveals about the deepest mechanics of your identity. To understand why your recorded voice triggers such an intense reaction, we first have to understand something fundamental about how you hear yourself speak. Right now, as you read these words, if you were to say them out loud, you would hear your voice through two completely separate systems simultaneously. The first system is external conduction. This is the sound that travels outward from your mouth, bounces off the walls and surfaces around you, and re-enters your ears from the outside. This is the same pathway that every other person in the room uses to hear you. The second system is bone conduction. This is sound that travels directly through the bones and tissues of your skull, bypassing the air entirely, and arrives at your cochlea through a completely different route. Bone-conducted sound carries lower frequencies more efficiently. It makes your voice sound fuller, richer, deeper, more resonant than it actually is in the open air. Every single time you speak, you hear a blend, a composite, a carefully mixed version of your own voice that is uniquely available only to you and will never be heard by anyone else on earth. And then you press play on the recording, and for the first time, you hear what everyone else hears, just the air, just the external signal, the bone conduction stripped away, the richness gone, the bass removed. What remains is thinner, higher, more nasal, more exposed than anything your internal audio system ever prepared you for. Psychologists call this the disconnect, and your brain registers it the way it registers any profound mismatch between expectation and reality, as a threat. But the neuroscience goes even deeper than acoustics, because what you are really reacting to when you hear your recorded voice is not just a sound, it is a self. And it does not match the self you carry inside your head. Inside your brain, in a region called the default mode network, your mind maintains a continuous, running portrait of who you are. Your voice, your face, your mannerisms, the way you hold your body in a room. This internal portrait is assembled from a lifetime of first-person experience. The problem is, it is assembled almost entirely from the inside. You have never heard yourself the way others hear you. You have never seen your face in real motion the way others see it. You have never watched yourself walk into a room. Your self-portrait is constructed from a perspective that is fundamentally, neurologically unavailable to anyone else. When you press play on that recording, you are not just hearing a different audio signal. You are encountering a stranger who moves through the world using your name, your words, your stories, but who sounds nothing like the person you believed yourself to be. Psychologists call this experience the "who is this" moment, and it activates something in your brain that is far more profound than simple embarrassment. It activates an identity threat response. Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, registers the mismatch between your internal self-portrait and the external evidence as a form of danger. Not physical danger, but existential danger. The particular vertigo of discovering that the version of yourself you have been living as is not entirely real. But why does it feel so specifically bad? Why is it not just surprising? Why is it actively, viscerally unpleasant? This is where we encounter the phenomenon psychologists call audio shame. Audio shame is the specific emotional response triggered when the gap between your internal self-perception and your external reality is made undeniable and irreversible. You cannot unhear a recording. You cannot argue with it. You cannot reframe it or explain it away. The evidence is objective, permanent, and playing on a loop. And for a brain that has spent years, decades, constructing a carefully maintained sense of self, objective, permanent evidence of a mismatch is not just uncomfortable, it is destabilizing. Here is the deeper truth that audio shame is pointing to. Your internal self-portrait is not just about your voice. Your voice, the way it sounds, the way it rises when you are excited, the way it flattens when you are nervous, the specific rhythm and cadence of how you string words together, is one of the primary ways you experience yourself as a coherent, continuous person. When that voice sounds wrong, when it does not match the internal signal, your brain does not just update the audio file. It questions the file itself. It asks, if I was wrong about this, what else am I wrong about? And this brings us to what brain lag actually is. Your brain processes your own voice approximately 200 milliseconds before you hear it externally. You are always slightly ahead of your own sound. Your internal experience of speaking is anticipatory. Your brain knows what you are going to say before the words have fully formed in the air. This means that in real time, you never fully hear yourself at all. You hear a preview, an internal rendering, a simulation of your voice that your brain generates based on motor commands and bone conduction and expectation, not based on the actual acoustic output. The recording removes the preview. It removes the anticipation. The bone conduction, the internal rendering. What remains is just the raw signal, the unfiltered output. The voice that has been traveling through rooms and conversations and relationships your entire life, heard by everyone who has ever known you. Except you. So what does this actually mean? What does the fact that you cannot stand the sound of your own voice reveal about how you move through the world? It reveals that you have been living inside a first-person experience so complete, so seamlessly constructed, that you genuinely did not know that the person others experience is different from the person you experience yourself to be. Not worse, not better. Different. Your friends are not confused by your voice. They are not tolerating it or politely ignoring it. They have simply never heard the version you carry inside your head, and they do not miss it. The voice they know, the one on the recording, is the one that has made them laugh, comforted them at 2 a.m., argued with them about things that mattered, told them things they needed to hear. That voice. The one you cannot stand. That is the one they love. The discomfort you feel when you hear your recorded voice is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that your brain has been protecting a version of you so carefully for so long that encountering the real thing feels like meeting a stranger. You are not broken. You are simply hearing yourself, for the first time, the way the rest of the world always has. And once you understand that, once you sit with the discomfort long enough to let it become familiar rather than threatening, something shifts. The stranger in the recording starts to feel less like an imposter and more like someone you might actually want to get to know. If this video finally explained why hearing your own voice feels like a full-body betrayal and helped you understand that the voice on the recording is not wrong, it is just real, hit the subscribe button. On this channel, we don't just talk about random facts. We decode the hidden mechanics of your mind. We destroy the lies your brain tells you about yourself. And we help you understand the person in the mirror. I will see you in the next one.